Hi, hello students. Welcome to Indian Tech Guru for you. So let us move on to the next topic. The next topic is input, output, and interrupt. So in the previous class, we discussed about the memory reference instructions, register reference instructions, as well as the input output instructions in detail. So before actually going to the interrupt concept, we need to know that there are basically two different types of I/O. The first category is program controlled I/O, or it can also be called as programmed I/O. Programmed I/O. The second one is interrupt driven I/O. Interrupt driven I/O. Okay, programmed I/O and interrupt driven I/O. So before actually going to these two topics, first of all, let us review once again how the input as well as output operations are carried out. So we know that input is fed to the computer using the keyboard, and output is either displayed on the monitor or printed on a printer. So for this purpose, we need an input register INPR, which is of 8 bits, an output register OUTR, which is of 8 bits. In addition to that, we need an input flag of 1 bit and output flag of 1 bit. So what is the purpose of these registers? Let us see once again. So initially we are going to give the input to the computer system using the keyboard. So what are the different inputs we can give using the keyboard? Either we can give the alphabets, or we can give the numbers, or we can give the special characters. Okay, these are the different types of things we can feed using the keyboard. So whenever we give these alphabets or numbers or special characters, they will be converted into a coded format. So how many bits we are using for the input register as well as the output register? We are using 8 bits. So that is why, so these alphabets or numbers or special characters will be converted into a 8-bit coded format. 8-bit coded format. So what are the 8-bit coded formats we have seen in previous classes? Either ASCII or EBCDIC. So previously ASCII was 7-bit code, now it is 8-bit code, and EBCDIC is by default 8-bit code. So either you can use according to the computer architecture, either it may use ASCII or it may use EBCDIC coded format. So that is about how it is coded. So once we press a particular key, then through the transmitter interface, it will be stored in INPR. So for example, I am keying in a particular word SMART, smart. Then initially the letter S will be pressed on the keyboard. So then it will be transmitted through the transmitter interface and will be stored in INPR. Now INPR will contain the letter S. The register INPR will contain the letter S. However, before you move the INPR value to the accumulator register, if you press another key M, then there is a chance of a replacement of the existing S with M. Then S may not be saved. So that problem is there. That is why this can be controlled using a single bit flag known as the input flag, and this FGI input flag will be initialized to 0. So FGI is initialized to 0. What does it mean? Nothing is there in INPR. So whenever we transfer a particular character S into the INPR, then it will be set to 1. What does it mean? Already some value is there in the INPR register. So now whenever the FGI flag is set to 1, then even you type anything on the keyboard, that will not be transmitted through the transmitter interface. It will not take. Okay, because the content of the INPR is not yet moved to the accumulator register. So once the content of the INPR is moved to the accumulator register and INPR is cleared, then we are going to reset the FGI value to 0. So what does it mean? Now the INPR register is free. Now we can give green signal to transmitter interface, and whenever the user types the next character M, then the M value will be moved to INPR. So like this it is controlled using the input flag. So after it is moved to the accumulator register, once again we are going to set the value of FGI to 1. After moving once again to 0. So like this the operation is carried out. So what about the content of accumulator register? There are several possibilities. So for example, I have keyed in the first character S. I can directly display the content or print the content on the monitor, or I shall store the content of the accumulator register in a memory location, or I can store the content of the accumulator register in a data register, or I can store the content of the memory location accumulator register into temporary register. There are so many different possibilities. So that will be depending on what is the purpose of keying on the particular data. Okay, for example, if you are reading the content for a particular program in C program, enter A comma B comma C values. If I say enter A comma B comma C values, and if I type the values in the keyboard like 2, 3, 4, then these numbers must be displayed on the monitor 2, 3, 4. So then what we are doing, we are directly displaying the content on the monitor. Okay. So as well as we are storing the content on the memory locations. 2 into memory location address A, 3 into memory location address B, and 4 into memory location address C. So like this AC will be cleared periodically, and once AC is cleared, then INPR is going to move the next character to the accumulator register. So that is about the input operation. So coming to the output operation, so for output operation, the content will be moved from accumulator register to OutR. So for this purpose, we have a flag known as the FGO, because before the movement of the content from accumulator register to OutR register, the receiver interface cannot receive any character and print or display on the monitor. So that is why the initial value of the FGO will be 1. So what does it mean? Receiver interface cannot receive any value from the OutR register until unless the content is moved from accumulator register to OutR. However, once the content of the accumulator register moved from accumulator register to OutR, for example, the character S is moved from accumulator register to OutR, Now we can make FGO to 0. So because now the receiver interface can receive the content from the outer register and display either in monitor or print on the printer. So this is how the FGO as well as FGI flags are going to control the input as well as output operations. As we got clarity uh, with the how we are going to perform the input as well as the output operations using the FGI as well as FGO flags, now it is time to move to the two different categories of IO operations. So the first category is program controlled IO. Program controlled IO. So here program controlled IO means the CPU is going to continuously check for the status flags. What are the status flags? FGI flag as well as FGO flag. So they are going to continuously check for the FGI flag as well as FGO flag. Okay. So whenever FGI is 1, FGI is 1, then what does it mean? It is ready to transfer the content from INPR to accumulator register. Similarly, whenever FGO is 1, what does it mean? It is ready to transfer the content from accumulator register to outer. So these two operations must be carried out by the CPU. So that is why CPU keep on checks for the FGI flag as well as FGO flag, whether it is set to 0 or 1. Okay. So whenever the FGI flag is set to 0, then nothing is there in INPR. So it once again needs to check for the FGI value until unless FGI value will become 1. Okay. So similarly, until unless FGO value is 0, it keeps on checking for the FGO value to become 1, so that whenever it becomes 1, it is going to continue, it is going to transfer the content from accumulator register to the outer register. So that is why it keeps on checks for the FGI as well as FGO values. However, we think that what is there to check the FGI as well as FGO value continuously? However, there is a problem. What is the problem is the CPU performs the instruction cycle. The CPU executes an instruction cycle in microseconds. Okay. So it can perform a single instruction in even in nanoseconds. However, we are telling instruction cycle. Instruction cycle will contain, already we have seen the instruction cycle steps. Step number 1, fetch the instruction. Step number 2, decode the instruction. Step number 3, recognize what type of instruction it is. And step number 4, perform the execution of that particular instruction. For all these things, assume that the CPU takes around 1 microsecond. So what does it mean? It means that the CPU is going to execute the content, execute the instructions very fastly compared to the input-output device. So whereas the input-output device, actually the input-output device performs the IO operations very slowly. For example, assume whenever we are going to give some input, then the fastest way to give input is around we can type around 10 characters per second. Okay, 10 characters per second. So what does it mean? We can type one character in 10 power minus 1 of a second. If we want to convert this value into microseconds, so then how we can convert? So consider this as 10 power 5 into 10 power minus 5. So 10 power 5 into 10 power minus 5 both cancels. So already 10 power minus 1 is there, second. So what does it mean? 10 power 5 microseconds. 10 power 5 microseconds. Okay. Now you can see the difference. So entire instruction cycle is executed by the CPU in 1 microsecond, whereas to push one character from the keyboard, it requires 10 power 5 microseconds. So what is the difference? 1 is to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is to 1 lakh difference is there. So this much of a speed imbalance is there between the CPU as well as the IO device. Okay. So that is why whenever the CPU wants to keep on check for the FGI value as well as FGO value, then it needs to check several times. Several times means in between each input character to be input or to be output, it needs to check thousands of times. So before it can continue its normal execution. But that is not the duty of the CPU. So what is the actual duty of the CPU? The actual duty of the CPU is to execute instructions. Okay, to execute instructions. So instead of executing instructions, what it is doing? It is checking for the status of the flags FGI as well as FGO. So that is the basic problem in case of the program controlled IO. CPU is slowed down to IO speed. Okay. So that is why we are not going to prefer the program controlled IO, and it is not used in the internal structure of the computer system. So instead of the program controlled IO, what we are going to do is we are going to use the interrupt driven IO. So what is meant by interrupt driven IO? Let us see now. Okay, now the second way to implement the IO is interrupt driven IO. So what is the difference between the programmed IO and interrupt driven IO is, in case of the programmed IO, the CPU keeps on checking for the flags of FGO or FGI several thousands of times. So which is going to waste CPU clock cycles, because it is busy with checking for the flags of FGO as well as FGI. So instead of doing its own business, what is its own business? To execute the instructions. So that is why now we are going to reverse the process. What is the reverse process is, now the IO device is going to send the signal to the CPU. So whenever the FGI is set to 1 or FGO is set to 1, then the IO device is going to send a signal to the CPU. That particular signal is nothing but the interrupt signal. Okay. So what is the meaning of interrupt? Interruption means we are going to disrupt the current flow of execution. So what is the basic duty of the CPU? To perform the execution of instructions, that is called as instruction cycle. Instruction cycle. The CPU always is meant for executing the instruction cycles. Okay, executing the instruction cycles. So what is that instruction cycle? Fetch and decode instructions, execute instructions, and once again come back, once again fetch and decode next instruction and execute the instruction. So this is the normal flow of execution. So this is the normal flow of execution of the instruction cycle. So however, now what we are saying that the IO device is going to send the interrupt signal to the CPU in reverse fashion. Okay, so whenever the FGI flag or FGO flag is set to 1, so whenever the FGI flag is set to 1, then what it needs to do, the CPU needs to transfer the content from the INPR to accumulator register. Similarly, whenever FGO is set to 1, the CPU needs to transfer the content from accumulator register to outer. These operations must be performed by the CPU itself. So that is why instead of now the CPU is going to check for the FGO as well as FGI flag values. The IO device is going to send an interrupt signal to the CPU whenever the FGO or FGI values become 1 using a special flag known as the interrupt flag. What is that flag? Interrupt flag. So that is nothing but the interrupt flip-flop. What we are going to use? Interrupt flip-flop. Here FF means flip-flop. So we are going to set who are going to set the value for interrupt flip-flop? The IO device, the input output device is going to set the value for interrupt flip-flop. So if R value is set to 0, then the normal execution will be carried out. Okay. However, if the R value is set to 1, then instead of the normal execution, so it is going to perform the interrupt cycle. Instead of instruction cycle, it is going to perform the interrupt cycle. Okay. So first let us see the normal instruction cycle. So after R value is 0, then we are going to check the value for the IEN. IEN means interrupt enabled flag. Interrupt enabled flag. Okay. So if interrupt enabled flag is 0, what does it mean? We are not going to allow the interrupts. Then it is going to perform the normal execution flow. However, if the interrupt enabled flag is equal to 1, then it needs to check for the FGI value as well as FGO value. So if FGI value is equal to 0, then what does it mean? It means that no input operation is carried out. Similarly, if FGO is equal to 0, it also means that no output operation is carried out. So that is why it is going to continue the normal execution flow. However, if either FGI value is equal to 1, then we are going to set the interrupt flip-flop R value to 1. Or if FGO is equal to 1, then we are going to set the interrupt flip-flop R value to 1. And we are going to send this R value through this particular branch to here. Now you can verify that R value has become 1. Okay. So previously it was 0. Whenever it was 0, then we are going to perform the normal execution flow. So if it becomes 1, then instead of instruction cycle, now the CPU needs to perform the interrupt cycle. So what is the interrupt cycle? An interrupt cycle is not that much complicated. an interrupt cycle is similar to a branch and save return address. Branch and save return address, whatever we have seen previously, it is similar to branch and save return address. So here we are going to perform the branch operation to execute the input output operation. So what is that input output operation? If FGI is assigned to 1, the input output operation is transfer the content of INPR to the accumulator register. If FGO is assigned to 1, then what is the output operation? The output operation is transfer the content of accumulator register to the outer. Okay, so these are the input output operations. Those operations now should be carried out by the CPU. However, before actually performing those operations, it needs to store the return address. It needs to store the return address. Why it needs to store the return address? Because after the completion of the interrupt cycle, it once again needs to come back and continue with the instruction cycle. To continue with the previous instruction cycle, it needs to store the return address. So that is why it is going to store the return address in location 0. Okay. So that is we are going to save the address of the next instruction to M of 0. Okay. So in the main memory, in 0 location, we are going to store the program counter value, PC value. Okay. So why we are storing the PC value here? Because after the execution of the interrupt cycle, we need to return to this particular address to continue the next instruction cycle. Okay. So after storing the content of PC to M of 0, now we are going to branch to location 1. So because the location 1 contains the instructions to execute the interrupt cycles instruction. Interrupt cycles instruction. After the completion of the interrupt cycles execution, then we are going to refresh the values of IEN as well as R to 0. Okay. So the interrupt enabled flag to 0 as well as the interrupt flip-flop R value to 0, so that it can continue with the instruction cycle, next instruction cycle. So we can see diagrammatically how it happens in the next diagram. See how it happens. So before the interrupt signal, assume that the current instruction being executed is 255. So what does it mean? The program counter always contains the address of the next instruction. The address of the next instruction is 256. Actually, it needs to execute the instruction 256. However, before executing the instruction 256, assume that an interrupt signal has occurred. That is, R value is set to 1. Once R value is set to 1, then it needs to store the current value of the program counter and transfer the control to the interrupt cycle. So that is why it needs to store the program counter value to any one of the memory locations. So here we are storing the content of the PC in M of 0. Okay. So actually you can store in any memory location. However, in this example we are storing in M of 0. Sometimes we may store in a register also. Temporary register is there. We may store the PC value in temporary register also. Okay. So that will be based on the computer architecture. So I am storing the 256 value in M of 0. Why I am storing? Because I need to come back to the instruction cycle and execute the next instruction cycle as usual after the completion of the interrupt cycle. Okay. So after saving the content of 256 to M of 0, so I am going to make the PC value to 1. So what is there in memory location 1? In memory location 1, you can see that a branch unconditional statement is there. And what is the location of branch unconditional statement? 1120. Okay. So now it is going to branch directly to 1120, and in 1120 you can find that the IO program is there. So what is that IO program? Either move the content of INPR to AC or move the content of AC to outer. So based on the values of input flag or output flag. Once the IO program is completed, so as the last instruction of the IO program, we are going to set one more branch unconditional instruction. So in that particular instruction, we are going to give the address location as 0. So what is there in address location 0? In address location 0, we are having the content of the program counter, previous program counter. So previous program counter is value is 256. Now, so it is going to complete the interrupt cycle and come back to the instruction cycle and continue execution from the value 256. Okay, the value 256 and continue the execution of the main program. Okay, so like this, the interrupt service routine or the interrupt cycle will be executed. Okay. Now, based on the above discussion, we shall change the register transfer statements according to the whatever the discussion we had. So, what discussion we had? We had a discussion that whenever the IEN flag, based on the IEN flag, interrupt enabled flag, is set to either 0 or 1, and based on the FGI flag is set to 0 or 1, and based on the FGO flag is set to 0 or 1. So we are going to set the R flip-flap, interrupt flip-flap, to either 0 or 1. Okay. So this is the case. Now this particular case must be implemented in register transfer language as a register transfer statement. Okay. So how this could be implemented? So is basically IEN of FGI plus FGO. IEN of FGI plus FGO. Here plus operation represents the logical OR operation. What does it mean? Either FGI value is true or 1, or FGO value is 1 and IEN flag is 1, then we are going to perform the interrupt cycle. So that is the meaning of this particular flag. So then what about the T0 dash, T1 dash, T2 dash? So actually T0, T1, T2 are the timing signals designated for instruction cycle. So designated for instruction cycle. So that is why now what we are doing is we are saying that so instead of these three timing signals, so whenever T0 dash, T1 dash, T2 dash, that is instead of these timing signals, in the other timing signals, whatever the timing signals, so that are not related to T0, T1, T2. So if IEN of FGI plus FGO, then what we are going to do? We are going to set the R value to 1. What is R? Interrupt flip-flap. So we are going to set the interrupt flip-flap to 1. So once we set the interrupt flip-flap to 1, then it is going to perform the, CPU is going to execute the interrupt cycle instead of the instruction cycle. So that is why how finally we have represented the particular statement in register transfer language. So this is the entire statement. What is that statement? T0 dash, T1 dash, T2 dash of IEN of FGI plus FGO. So assignment colon R assignment 1. What does it mean? So instead of T0, T1, T2 clock cycles, if IEN value is 1 and either FGI value or FGO value is 1, then set the 1 value to R. So this is the meaning of this particular entire statement. So however, sometimes what happens is the instruction cycle as well as the interrupt cycle may overlap also. Okay. So because during the execution of the instruction cycle, in between the execution of the instruction cycle also, sometimes the R flag may be set to 1. So whenever the R flag is set to 1, then instead of continuing the instruction cycle, we need to execute the interrupt cycle. So that is why, so this particular implementation of T0 dash, T1 dash, T2 dash may not be valid. So that is why now we need to bifurcate between the instruction cycle as well as the interrupt cycle. So how we are going to bifurcate is, so now we are going to replace for the instruction cycle. For the instruction cycle, we are going to replace T0, T1, T2 with R dash T0. R dash means the R value is 0. So it can continue the instruction cycle. So R dash T0, R dash value 0. R dash T1, R dash T2. So now whenever we say R dash T0, R dash T1, R dash T2, these timing signals are going to represent the instruction cycle. Similarly, whenever we say RT0, RT1, RT2, then these timing signals are going to designate the interrupt cycle. So now the CPU needs to perform two different cycles. What are they? Either instruction cycle or interrupt cycle. The instruction cycle is represented by the timing signals R dash T0, R dash T1, R dash T2, and the interrupt cycle timing signals are represented by RT0, RT1, RT2. Why we are considering like this? I have already explained, based on the R value. So here the R dash value is 0, 0, 0. Here the R value is 1, 1, 1. So whenever the R value is 1, then what does it mean? It is going to represent the interrupt cycle instead of instruction cycle. So now you can see what are the operations that are going to carried out, that will be carried out. So in RT0, RT1, RT2, in case of the interrupt cycle. So as far as the RT0 is concerned, initially what we are going to do, we are going to move the content of 0 to memory address register, 0 to memory address register or address register, and we are going to move the content of the PC to the temporary register. Okay, already I have discussed previously. So instead of storing the PC value to directly to M of AR, we can store temporarily in temporary register also. So in RT1, what we are doing, we are moving the content of, for example, let us see the values. Here the PC contains 256. The 256 value will be transferred in TR, and address register value we are moving 0. Then M of 0 will be assigned to the content of TR. What is the content of TR? 256. And program counter is set to 0. So why we are setting the program counter to 0? So because we have moved the temporary register value to the M of AR. So in case of RT2, the instruction RT2, so we are going to update the PC program counter to 1. So then it is going to represent this branch unconditional statement and execute this branch unconditional statement. So it is going to move to directly to the IO program and execute the IO program. After the IO program is executed, then it is going to reset the values of the interrupt enabled flag, the interrupt flip flap, as well as the sequence counter, all to zeros. Clear. It is going to clear all the IEN as well as R as well as the sequence counter to 0. Okay. So like this, we are going to perform the RT0, RT1 as well as RT2 register transfer instructions. So this is the this is how we are going to represent the sequence of instructions using the register transfer statements. Okay, so see once again very carefully. So T0 dash, T1 dash, T2 dash are going to represent These are not related to instruction cycle. These are related to interrupt cycle. IEN will represent the interrupt enabled flag. FGI is going to represent the input flag. FGO is going to represent the output flag. So whenever IEN is equal to 1 and either FGI or FGO are 1, then we are going to set the 1 value to interrupt flip-flap. Okay. To further bifurcate the instruction cycle as well as the interrupt cycles timing signals, what we are going to do is we are going to add either R dash or R values to the timing signals. So R dash T0, R dash T1, R dash T2 are going to represent the instruction cycle. Similarly, RT0, RT1, RT2 are going to represent the interrupt cycle. And we have seen, so what are the particular interrupt cycle commands to be executed during RT0, RT1 as well as RT2. So this is how we are going to perform the interrupt driven IO. So most of the for implementing this interrupt driven IO, we need some special hardware circuit. So because here the signal need to be transmitted from IO device to the CPU. Actually, whenever the programmed IO is implemented, the CPU is going to check for the flag values continuously thousands of times, which is a wastage of time. That is why here we are going to reverse the control, and we are going to make sure that whenever the IO operation is required, then the IO device is going to send a special signal. What is that special signal? That special signal is nothing but the interrupt signal, and accordingly the CPU is going to take the necessary action and perform the IO operation. To perform the IO operation, it needs to stop the current execution of the instruction cycle and transfer control to the interrupt cycle. So that we have seen how it is going to transfer the control from the instruction cycle to the interrupt cycle, and after the completion of the interrupt cycle, how it comes back to the instruction cycle. Hope you understand the logic. That's all for now.